Of all the videos I've made for this channel, one of the ones that I'm still very proud of is my Sakura Wars Retrospective. It was my first big project, and while it is most definitely extremely rough and had to be censored due to being blocked in several countries because of copyright reasons, I'm still very happy that I made it. I didn't cover everything in the franchise in it, however, so since then I've kind of decided to make it a yearly series, which also serves to catalog my progress as a video creator. Last time I took a look at primarily the manga and stage plays, but today we're going back to video games, or at least things that were released on game consoles, be it for better or for worse. Before we start, I'd just like to point out one thing, being that I'm only covering things that could in one way or another be considered user input requiring games. There's a bunch of Pachinko machines exclusive to Japanese gambling parlors that I simply don't have access to, and a bunch of PC exclusive accessory discs that come with wallpapers and whatnot, and also a Sega Saturn newsletter for the series, but you know what, just consider this their official mention in this video series since I really have absolutely nothing to say about them. First on the list is Sakurataisen, Jouki Radio Show. For the most part, this is a collection of side stories starring the cast of the first game, with the occasional minigame here and there, and a total absence of combat missions. This is going to become a theme throughout these next few games. Easily the most interesting part about this game is the fact that it contains snippets from one of the stage plays, namely the Kayou show. Now you might be wondering what the radio show title refers to. See, occasionally throughout the game there'll be a short intermission from some of the cast holding a radio show. For any toddlers watching this, a radio show is essentially like a podcast, usually played in between songs on the radio. While this game is marginally interesting and is generally a relaxing slice of life experience with the game's cast, I can't really say it's worth seeking out and playing as there isn't much to it at all. Next up is Teigeki Graph. This game is probably the second most interesting of the bunch. Not because it's particularly good, but because this was the very last first-party title released for the Saturn. It's essentially just an extended version of Radio Show, featuring the new characters from Sakura Wars 2. The side stories are different, and there's a bunch of new minigames, one of them being basketball with a 30-pound dumbbell. The main gimmick here is that the game has a bunch of exclusive artworks, but once again, whether that alone is enough to justify it going through an all-around pretty uninteresting, untranslated game is up to you to decide. From this point onwards, the titles get really long, so I apologize to any Japanese speakers if I butcher any pronunciations. Ogami Ichiro Funtouki, Sakurataisen Kayou Show, Benitokage Yori is probably my favorite one just by virtue of having what is easily the most interesting concept of the bunch. Once again, this is mostly a minigame collection with clips from the stage play scattered throughout. What makes this one unique though is that it's mostly about the actors, not the characters. There are several points where you will essentially become a film director, having to shoot scenes from multiple angles and editing them accordingly. Like most games in the series, however, there is no translation of any form, and I'm doubtful there ever will be. And now for the first and unfortunately not only thing on this list that I wasn't able to check out myself. Pocket Sakura was a small LCD game released alongside the first Game Boy Color game, where it was also used to unlock some bonus stuff. For the most part, this is a Tamagotchi style virtual pet, but it also has a pedometer if you care about that sort of thing. I personally have no idea what I would need a Sakura Wars themed pedometer for, but I'm sure it has its uses. I really wish I could have checked it out, because I actually find Tamagotchi games to be kind of relaxing in a way. But this thing is apparently pretty damn rare, and I'm not about to blow $100 on one. And now for the other thing I wasn't able to check out myself. Sakurataisen Kinematron Hanagumi Mail. See, the Dreamcast online connectivity allowed you to send emails to other people. This software, because calling it a game would make even visual novel enthusiasts raise an eyebrow, basically lets you add a Sakura Wars theme to your mails with stamps, stickers, and small animations. The catch here being that the recipient also needs a copy of this thing in order to properly read the mails the way they were supposed to be seen. I'm not particularly shocked that this concept didn't take off back in the day, but you know, Sega could have easily brought this back for modern texting services since they're full of this kind of shit these days. Kind of a missed opportunity if you ask me, but whatever. Next is easily the biggest game on this list, which is simultaneously the most saddening, as most of its features are no longer available. Sakurataisen Online, Taito no Nagai Hibi, and Paris no Yugana Hibi. These are essentially the same game, with the only real difference being that the Taito version focuses on the cast of 1 and 2, and the Paris version focuses on the cast of 3. This was essentially a sort of social MMO. You could play as yourself, taking the form of whatever abomination you felt like creating, and proceed to walk around town talking to the characters from the games and even other players. There were several games you could play with other players and the NPCs, like poker, mahjong, hanafuda, And depending on your actions, you'd unlock even more stuff. And all of that is no longer available because the online servers were shut down more than a decade ago. Thankfully, there is still an offline mode you can check out where you still have access to all of the minigames, so if you ever wanted to play Mahjong against Sakura Wars characters, you still can. It's just that all of the actually cool shit about this game is now totally lost to time. It's a damn shame because the game genuinely seems like it had a lot of care put into it, and could have been something really great. But there's no point in crying over something that's long gone, so I say we move on. And for the last game, we have the wet dream of every middle-aged Asian businessman. Jissen Pachinko Hisshouhou, CR Sakurataisen, is essentially a home port of the Sakura Wars Pachinko machines. You can look at the machines and play Pachinko, and that's, basically it. I honestly don't understand why this exists. Isn't the whole appeal of gambling the prospect of winning something? There's a reason why casino simulators have a point system and a certain goal to reach. Not to mention, this is Pachinko. All you do is look at balls fall down and occasionally press a button. Who was this made for? I genuinely don't know why anybody would buy this, or any Pachinko simulator for that matter. I cannot even begin to think of a more boring gambling game than Pachinko, except for maybe slot machines, but if against all odds this happens to be your type of game, then you know what, be my guest dude, knock yourself out. And that concludes today's look at all of the weird Sakura Wars games that can barely even classify as such. Honestly, I have no idea what to title this video to begin with. I know this was significantly shorter than usual, but I've already begun working on the next full-length project, so I hope you'll be looking forward to that. As for the next fourth and final video in the Sakura Wars series, I have two potential dates in mind for when I'd like to have them done, but that won't be for another while. Until then, I wish all of you a wonderful morning, day, evening or night, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.